Hi, Gabor. Oh. So I thought I'd be done this thing by now, but clearly I'm not. So this is what I'm working on today. How is everyone? Ooh, and I also forgot my water, so I'm gonna go grab I've got my painting water, but I need to grab my drinking water. So I'll be right back. Yeah, it's I missed the eggs and the beans. Well, yeah, I painted that over the course of the week. So I was, or rather, mostly the weekend, this past weekend. So I was hoping to get this actually done, not on stream, but I didn't. That happens. And so I am back to my streaming this thing. It is, however, much more done. There is clearly an end in sight to this thing, so it is going to just be, it's going to be a circle, as you can see the edges of the circle here. And yeah, I just need to finish filling it in, I guess. It's all good. So, yeah, I'm gonna go back to some of these blueberries, I guess. It does still need some touches of white gouache here and there. That is absolutely correct. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to preserve as many highlights as I can, but I am going to go through with bleed proof white afterwards and add like just the shiniest like little bright spots on some of the shiny fruits and the meat and stuff. I have, but I wasn't, when I read it, I wasn't really in a mindset where I could really process what was being said. So I figured I would delay asking you until later. So I have a few questions. I'm on Linux at home, on my main machine. So that's a consideration. But yeah, it's nice to know that there's that I have options, maybe. Watching you makes me feel really inadequate at painting. Don't. We've all been, like, everyone who you admire has been through the struggles that you've been through. Like, none of us come out of the womb knowing how to paint, and like you can bet that I spend a lot of time frustrated with what I'm not able to do as well. So, you know, I've figured out some things that you haven't yet, maybe, but you know, that's not a reflection on your innate abilities or anything. This is my full-time job, so I get a lot of practice. Can't even start to paint, so no enjoyment there, only anxiety. Yeah, I am definitely familiar with the anxiety trap. I'm real good at anxiety. Honestly, these live streams have been helping a little with my anxiety because well, because I tend to default to an anxiety to get myself to get things done, to be productive, which is of course not healthy at all, and not something that I'm really eager to keep up or encourage. But these live streams, I mean, then I have people waiting on me. So of course I have to paint. So, you know, then I just sit down and whatever happens, happens. So it's been good. It's exhausting in a way too, but it is good for getting, you know, ensuring that on Friday at least whatever else is going on in my life, I sit down and I do some painting. Hi, Ev. Hi, Ev. Hi, Mom. Bye. Well, hopefully I'll catch your stream tomorrow. I am also super busy running around the next few days, so we will see. I really do want to catch your stream, so I'll try to make time for it. So, you'll see in past streams I was focused more on one area, and the past little while I've sort of pulled back a little and I'm just trying to fill it in more. Trying to get a sense for what's left to do here. I recently started abandoning art that starts to be good and the fear of messing it up, but I also try to treat everything in practice as practice and throwaway. Yeah, so what I have found to get past that particular block is to do something like a daily art challenge. Like turn the pressure up on just the specific task of you need to finish something and post it with a fairly high frequency. Like post it to whatever your social media of choice is. You don't have to have a big following, it can be your friends, but commit to that. And don't try a year. I've done a year, don't do it. But it is helpful to do like a shorter stretch. Has been what I've found. Anyway, so that breaks through the expectation that like, oh, well, you know, I'm gonna have to save this and this is gonna be pretty and I don't know, this isn't good enough and all of that. Like, you stop being so precious about individual pieces. So I found that has really helped with that particular challenge. there are, of course, lots of other challenges that you will run into that, you know, you have to find other solutions for. Started in October last year, but with day job competing with my time, I missed a lot of days. But I'm thinking about starting to do live streams. It would make me sit down and actually do it. Yeah, so the live streams are another thing like that. Now the live streams work a little bit better for me because it's not an everyday thing. But yeah, I guess the live streams are the other thing that I found that just, yeah, I mean, if I commit to, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be on camera painting, I mean, I can't very well just decide that I'm not painting, right? I can't just wimp out because there's people waiting on me. So, you know, part of what you're seeing is like, oh, this is so brave. Well, this is partially because what choice do I have? So I'm just gonna. Do you feel that articulating what you helps? What? Sorry, I'm not sure I follow. Like you are no good at potentially. I mean, some of it is fake it till you make it, where like there are things that I don't feel like I really have a full grasp on that then I turn around and I try to teach. So then I have to very quickly learn. Sorry, miss some words. Articulating what you do makes it more deliberate, less chance of happy accidents. I think that is counterbalanced to a huge extent by the fact that I have to be dividing my focus. So there are things that I just straight up won't try to do on camera because they're so timing dependent that I know that I won't be able to manage them, if that makes sense. There is some benefit I find to, yes, like verbalizing things like you learn by teaching, where like I'm not really sure why I do things a certain way, like I've never really thought about it, and by thinking about it, I not only, you know, better understand the reasonings why I've developed certain habits, but also you know, can apply them more deliberately rather than just you know, this is how I paint and this is how you should paint. But on the other hand, especially when teaching classes, especially like in person, when demonstrating to people in person, that is absolutely never my best work. And live streams have some of the same effect. Teaching is the best way to learn, right? Yeah. Hi, Dan. How are you? Sorry. I'm getting a puppy on Monday, and the breeder just sent me a video. I really, really want to open it, but I can't because it's on my phone, and I'm filming with my phone. We want pics of the puppy. Yes, I will share as soon as I get them. I'll post them in Discord. Oh, you just knocked over your water onto the painting or something. Pretend it was a hiccup in the stream like usual. No, no. I'll just keep streaming, but I'll send you guys the puppy videos as soon as I can. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I've wanted a puppy my whole damn life. My family was trained seeing eye dogs when I was really little. Little young child. But then I haven't owned a dog as an adult. Just because I think, like a lot of people, my life just wasn't. When we were living in apartments, we didn't know, where our next place would be, or whether we'd be able to find a really dog friendly living situation. So, that wasn't a great idea. Then we bought our house, and we were busy with renovations, and then I switched to full-time art, and we really weren't sure what that might look like long term in terms of my available time. And then the pandemic hit, and in some ways that would have been ideal, but in some ways it was not, is not. Socializing a puppy is going to be challenging. So Stephen, will you ever show us what was in the big box with the DVD? I'm assuming that it's the palette, no? Okay, so then, yeah, I'm just sort of hopping around. So these are going to be lentils down here, little French lentils. And then down here I have walnuts. Yeah, I think the box that got shipped to me was actually a little bit smaller than that one, because it's a package, like it's Amazon packaging, right? So it's a bit variable. But yeah. Yeah, they're great. They're great. It's this, right, Stephen, that you got? Okay, and then let me make sure that I'm not draining my battery here. And let's... I take full responsibility for this enabling. Yeah, I also had this moment of like, oh no, the palette arrived broken, but no. Okay. Thank goodness. Ooh, it's a little scary. So I'm painting green lentils. Now, green lentils often, by the time you cook them, they end up more brown than green. But I'm trying to leave them a little bit on the greener side. Just to get some more variation in color. I don't really know how I'm gonna deal with the grains here because a lot of grains are pretty brown. Like we're gonna have some red quinoa, but and maybe some wild rice, which is sort of like bluish gray. But there's gonna be a lot of brown in this section, so it is what it is. I considered doing some pasta, like the colorful pasta that's got you know, vegetables mixed in, and I don't know how I feel about that. I might still do it. It's obviously not the grains then that are creating that color. whereas just pasta can be pretty much just the grain. Yeah, so some of these things just really do take a lot of time because they are like there's really a lot of detail. So like the egg went really, really quickly, and the bread. But a lot of them are just like, okay, well now I'm just gonna keep on adding these little shapes. I love wide open spaces. I mean, like, this is neat because it's nice and compact, but like, if I could, yeah, I love just having like as much wide open space to mix on as possible. I still own most of my paints from years ago, way too timid in retrospect. Time to slop them around a lot more and use a lot more pigment. Yes, absolutely. I feel like that is a common, like that's a common struggle that artists have in general, and like perhaps especially watercolor artists, because our paints come in these teeny tiny little tubes. So we're prone to being very precious about them. Like, oh, well, you know, this tiny little tube was $20. I don't want to use too much of this. But the truth is, it's there for painting, and like, what else are you going to use it for? You have to paint with it. And your colors are like, you want to use as much as you need to, really. Like, you know, if you want a deeper color, there's only one way to get that, and you're not gonna get yeah, you can't, you just sort of have to like accept that art supplies are for using and just dive in and use them. And it really does help. Yeah, yeah. I've still got pans that, you know, I started decades ago, like, well, not decades, plural, but like nearly a decade. Um, I mean, I have also used up, 15 mil tubes. Like, yes, paints are for using, and if you use them regularly, you will sometimes have to replace a tube. Like, that's totally normal and expected. But also, they do go a very, very long way. And so you don't really need to worry too much about, the expense, the replacement value. Like, what ends up happening far more frequently is that I want to try a new brand. I want to try a similar pigment, and so then I'll buy a replacement for a thing or a refill for a thing that I haven't actually finished. That happens far more frequently than, oh, well, this is an expensive pigment and I need to replace it. That is exactly my problem. Well, I'm glad to know I'm not alone, at least. Do you think there might be a better version of the street, not like 150 or 129 middle yellow? I mean, are you happy with the core Benzimita yellow PY154? Because PY154 is a pretty common pigment. I think Core's version is fine. Core's version is probably a little bit more expensive than some other alternatives you can find. So if you really like the flow of Core, then you stick with Core. But what you like about it is just the color, the tone, how it mixes, then you can look up that pigment from other brands, but it should be available from a whole bunch. And then you can just get that pigment. Yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily. You don't have my holdups about yellows, where like I really don't like any kind of like I'm really fussy about opacity and dispersion in yellows. But you are specifically looking for something that has more body than the PY150 that I tend to go for. So, if you're happy with the PY154, I would stick with it. Sorry, I'm just grabbing my slippers and stretching my back. Oh. So I was going to put curd cheese here, but I realized that it's not really behaving the way I want it to look. So I'm probably going to cover up this area with some steak strips or something. Just in here. And then I'll put some like cheese cube type things over beside it. So I'm gonna just take a little piece of, yeah, something like that. PY96 Hansa medium is my go-to yellow. I started to use all three Hansa colors yet. If I need something my mm-hmm. Quite a few in that hue area. The main yellows 129, 154, 150, then ISO 110 up to orange PO 62 plus underrated yellow ochre. Cool. Yeah. I tend to just go for the same yellows over and over and over and over again. I have very little variation in my yellows, but then I make up for it in variation in my blues. So I have a ton of variation in my blues, which allows me to then mix a huge range of greens, even though I don't have that many yellows. So it's just a different approach. And then the only time where I need like a huge range of yellows, and even then I don't really use a huge range of yellows, but like if I'm painting yellow subjects, which I don't do terribly often, I'd say, and working on a painting full of yellow subjects. I'm sure I don't need that many, but I think the higher value colors are a little harder to mix well, so a little margin of safety. Well, I mean, yeah, technically, like, you don't need a whole bunch of things, right? Like, people get by with, oh, I use 4 colors. You lose some of the available gamut, but like you can still make perfectly good paintings that way. Why do any of us have as many colors as we have? I mean, certainly with me, and keep in mind this isn't my primary palette, right? Like this is just what I'm painting with today for fun, for this piece. And like I've got, like, nobody needs this many colors. But just because you don't need them doesn't mean they're not fun and you shouldn't use them. I don't underrate yellow ochre. I despise it. It is so obvious to use in landscapes, but I hate the hue. I rather struggle with mixes than use it. There's a whole range of yellow ochres. Like, there are definitely some yellow ochres that are that hue that I hate. They Stephen, the yellow ochre, like it has a completely different feel and mixing behavior than the Quin Gold. Like they have the same hue angle and location on a printed color wheel, but in terms of properties, they couldn't be more different. Yes, you did. I grant you that. I think, well, I don't know. I will let him speak for himself. I can speak only for myself. And sometimes when I say I don't like a color, I don't like a hue, I may be more or less inclined towards it depending on how it behaves. Like if it's this overwhelming heavy paint, then I'm more likely to react to the hue negatively than if it's something that will just mix into other paints more evenly. And yeah. And again, I feel like I'm using all the wrong words here. Like I'm not really describing what I mean to say very well. Monte Amiata Natural Sienna is my current ochre color. Yeah, okay. So that's, that is an example of, I mean, it's a PBR 7, I believe, but yes, it's it's well within the range of what some companies might call a yellow ochre. And having that, having something in that range available, like a muted, whether it's a Quin Gold or it's a yellow ochre or it's actually having an earth, like an actual earth color that has some body to it, that is like in that muted yellow family. It doesn't have to be the the specific yellow ochre that's made by whatever company you tried first, Winsor Newton, and it didn't work for you. Like, I tend to like raw sienna for that spot, specifically the Kama Pigments raw sienna. But again, it's not, I don't know that is, yeah, like, different companies name things differently. I have met some yellow ochres that are really, really gorgeous and I love them. And I've met others that I really, really don't like, that are that hue or that feeling or whatever you want to call it, that I do not like, do not enjoy. There's also something to be said for, I can appreciate certain pigments that I hate working with when they're used by other people. So there are many botanical artists, for example, who really like how, like my nemesis pigment is, nickel titanate yellow. And there's a few different hues of it. There's one in particular that I particularly despise, but I don't really like any of them very much. And I've said similar things to botanical artists about, oh my goodness, I just can't stand that pigment. Ew, it is vile. and I got myself into trouble because they'll say, oh well, it's really useful for painting like really pale bloom on daffodils, which no doubt. And I can admire the painting and recognize how it was done without ever wanting to touch the stuff myself. Like if I paint something similar, I will find a different way to paint it, and that's part of the beauty of painting, is that it's not, we all do things slightly differently. You can get 100 artists in front of the same subject and you'll get 100 different paintings. You can give 100 artists the same materials and you'll get 100 different paintings. You can, yeah. So actually, speaking of Monte Amiata Natural Sienna, that's what this is. I am picking up right now, although this is the Roman Schmal version, which is a little bit different than the Daniel Smith. problem. Lee is allergic to certain colors. Is there a certain scientific name for chartreusophobia? Except that I am not, definitely not allergic to chartreuse. It's slightly more mustard and muted of chartreuse that literally makes me nauseous. And the scientific name for that is synesthesia. Usually it goes the other way around, where specific, like, my wires are crossed in my brain in a number of different ways. But one of the ways is I have color associations for a whole bunch of things. So emotions, feelings, physical sensations have colors attached to them. They color my memories and stuff. Usually that's a one-way street where something will have a color associated to it, but the color isn't, seeing the color doesn't trigger that in the same way. But I do have I spent a lot of time being nauseous in my childhood and teens and university. Just weak stomach and then chronic anxiety. So there's a certain shade of mustard that I associate to nausea. And that one is a two-way street where I see that color and I throw up. I don't think I've actually gotten to the point of that nauseous where I've actually thrown up, but pretty close. And certain kinds of yellow ochre are spot on for that. Not all, some. Yes, small problem is in fact family. This is one of those family streams where we have, apparently everyone's here. I'll swap it to gold ochre from Winsor Newton. I really like the Winsor Newton gold ochre. It's a really neat color. Yep, small problem is Mish. Everyone is hoping for Puppy. Puppy is arriving on Monday. And by arriving, I mean I'm going for a very, very long road trip with Britt and picking up a puppy from Sterling, Ontario. So we're going to be on the road for like 7 hours on Monday. Yeah. Want to pick me up? Well, Mom wants me to meet them at the edge of the 401. There's no way in Seven Hells that we are driving into Toronto, even though we're driving sort of past Toronto, but to like actually dip into the city would, like, we already have like a full day of driving, half of it with a puppy. And then keep in mind, I'm going with Britt, who is 5 months pregnant. 7 hours round trip. Yeah, it's a 3-hour drive, but we're driving with Britt's driving. She's very pregnant, so she needs breaks and stuff. Then we're picking up a puppy, and the puppy will also need breaks. Have you figured out how to stop the puppy chewing your artwork and materials? Well, it's all off the ground. I cleaned up my studio so good, and I still have a little bit more to do, but basically everything is on wall shelves where the puppy can't reach them right now. Once the puppy gets a little bit bigger, then the puppy will be better trained. But for now, the puppy will just be attached to me and really tiny. Like I'm, yeah. Well, already bought tickets, so all good. Good stuff, yeah. So anyway, so we might stop by. I still need to figure this out with Britt, but Mom wants us to stop by and meet them somewhere. So like we might just like take an exit off this 401 and meet them like way up north of Toronto. As long as we don't have to drive into the city. So don't teach the puppy to jump. Well, I'm getting the puppy I'm getting is half border collie, so I don't know that teaching to jump is really necessary. It's more like teaching to control jumps. Like border collies are bouncy, and granted, this particular dog is also like half Canadian Inuit dog or Malamute. If possible, pick me up. Okay, but I think you're gonna be at work when we come by. Like we're leaving early in the morning. We're gonna get there around noon, and then we're driving back in the afternoon. Which means we'll be up at like north end of Toronto if we're doing this thing with Mom and Dad. We're gonna be driving past the north end of Toronto at like maybe 2 p.m. I don't think we can pick you up. I think you're gonna be at work. And I can't, like, we're not gonna delay, yeah. Take it off. I would always tend to head up through Fergus, Orangeville, Newmarket, and just try to avoid Toronto. Yeah, well, okay. I mean, we can look at routes, but we're going way across. So Sterling, Ontario is like out Belleville way. It was like most of the way to Kingston. So geographically we are going straight through Toronto, but like we're not gonna go into downtown. And yeah, like even there's some argument for like even avoid the 401. But whatever, we might be able to do Mom's thing, maybe. We'll see. Oh, I thought it was more north. No. It's eastern Ontario. So like we do have to, like realistically, I mean it's 401 or 407, right? For that section. Okay, this is probably making absolutely no sense to people who aren't local. So I live in Canada and all distances are very large. And so the nearest big city is where I grew up, like the nearest big city is where I grew up, which is Toronto. And it is a vortex of all traffic around Toronto is just insane. I live pretty much due west of Toronto. Northwest, maybe. Yeah, I guess I live northwest of Toronto. It's just our street grid is also kind of. So I live about 100 kilometers northwest of Toronto, and basically the place I'm going is 200 kilometers east of Toronto. So the straight line, like the geographical route would take us straight through downtown Toronto, which my parents are delighted with because that would take us right through past their house. And they could pass off all sorts of things that they've got for the puppy and say hello to the puppy. And that would all be really lovely. But because the traffic is so bad there, that would add at least an hour of travel time. And we already have a full day of driving. So we're not going to do that. There's the biggest highway, I guess, that we would take to get across, cuts across like the north end of Toronto. And so potentially what we might do is just take an exit off the 401 and just go to a park over there and meet up with my parents there without driving into the city. Potentially. We're not sure. Southwest. Are we actually southwest, or are we? I'm always, because according to the Toronto street grid, we are due west, and according to some other, yeah, or northwest. No, sorry. According to the Toronto street grid, we're northwest, but according to reality, we're due west, or maybe even slightly south. Something. There's a lake in the way too, so. How could I forget where Sterling is? Yeah, well, I didn't know that Sterling existed until suddenly I have to drive there to pick up a puppy. Puppy. Anyway, so that's my day on Monday. And then on Tuesday, Lauren's coming over. And then I have some busy times socializing a puppy, which is interesting in a pandemic when I'm terrified of both the human plague and parvovirus. So I mentioned that when I was little, my family raised seeing eye dogs, and there's a tragedy there where the first one died of what turned out to be misdiagnosed parvovirus, had to be put down. And then the second one caught parvovirus from the first one's things. So they gave the puppy one of those word button boards. I definitely want to. Yeah, I definitely want to do the words, the buttons. So Britt got Lana. So Britt is my sister-in-law. Lana is her dog. Britt got Lana a button. I got Lana buttons, and Lana is a jerk and has like poetic thoughts like love you, no. Yeah, okay, don't shave the puppy. Don't shove the puppy. Be a great time with the puppy. Yes. Isn't there a vaccine against parvo? Yes, there absolutely is a vaccine against parvo, but it takes 4 shots. And so they're spread out. So puppy has gotten her first vaccine, but she won't be fully vaccinated until she's 4 months old. Or yeah, 4 or 5 months old. So she's had her first vaccine, she's scheduled for her second, but until that's fully active, she can still catch it. So it's recommended with young puppies these days to not let them walk, like not let them interact with other dogs if you don't know the vaccination status of the other dogs. So like it's totally fine to take your puppy to play with other dogs if you know that the other dogs are vaccinated. But until the puppy is fully vaccinated, like you're not supposed to take them to dog parks or like the off-leash areas, and even like taking them to a regular park is a risk. And yeah, so we're going to just be using the like our yard. Well, technically probably we'll be using the neighbor's yard, because they have a nice big grassy area that's elevated off the ground, like a retaining wall and then a higher grassy area, and so we'll just use that. Because there are no other dogs there, so that we'll be using that for PP training, and then we'll be socializing the puppy by inviting people over to our outdoor space or going to like my sister-in-law's house so that our puppy can play with her dog. And yeah, visiting friends that have children and have dogs, but because I'm terrified of human diseases, the human plague, we're not doing indoor stuff. Like we're not having people over inside. And because I am terrified of parvovirus, we are not doing parks and stuff until puppy is fully vaccinated. So the dogs that the puppy has contact with have the vaccines. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's like, it's completely fine, and in fact we need to socialize the dog, because if you have a dog and you don't introduce them to other dogs while they're a little puppy, then they're going to be afraid of other dogs, or they're going to be territorial. So you need to have them understand that other dogs are friends and children are friends and whatever. So you need to introduce them to a variety of different dogs and a variety of different children, a variety of different people. It's just, unfortunately, this is happening not only when the dog is unvaccinated, which is like, that's a challenge for everyone and their puppies, is you need to introduce them to dogs, but you need to introduce them to dogs that you trust the humans to have vaccinated them and kept up to with their vaccines, versus and like now in the middle of a pandemic, on top of it all, like, well, we have another wave coming, so we don't really want to be doing a whole lot of visiting in people's houses. Like, that seems risky. We don't want to have great big parties and interact with a bunch of people. So yeah. We're just gonna have to plan around it, like, because the dog does need to be socialized. We can't have a dog that's going to be aggressive or scared of people or scared of other dogs or whatever. So we do have to socialize the dog. We're just going to have to do it carefully and outdoors, but like outdoors in our yard or outdoors in our friends' yards, not like at parks where there are. Who's almost a year, as said, he is much more likely to learn to pee to the side, which is neater if he was not fixed. Does it really matter how they pee? I never quite understood that. Like, what does it matter? Dante sometimes pees on all fours. Back to his lovable, calm self, the other dogs went back to ignoring him. Yeah, so like it's also especially important because the puppy we're adopting is part sled dog. Like his dad is described as a Malamute Canadian Eskimo dog, or I would prefer to say Canadian Inuit, but the breeder called it Canadian Eskimo, which is really code speak for this is a northern sled dog. Like it's a fluffy northern sled dog of no particular pedigree. But anyway, those breeds or that type of dog they tend to be a little bit standoffish with people outside of their circle, outside of their pack. People, and especially other dogs outside of their pack, if they're not socialized very early and very thoroughly to accept, like, oh, all other dogs are friendly. So they're very, very friendly with their people, and they can be they tend to be pretty friendly with other people, but they can be a little bit territorial with other dogs or sometimes children. So we need to make sure that we deal with that early on. Like the egg. Can we paste both ways now? I'm back. Hi, Dan. Females are likely to squat no matter what you do. Yeah, okay. I mean, well, we're getting a female dog, and we'll get her fixed at 5 months or whatever when they're recommended to get fixed. Because I'm not interested in breeding more fluffy dogs. But yeah, we do need to socialize her. It's just, it is gonna be a task and a thing that we need to like really be really careful about in the context of pandemic. So I reached out to my studio mates because a couple of them have young children. If I could introduce them to the kids. We'll see. Maybe I'll make some time to see my sister and my nephew again sometime soon. Lauren's coming over, so that'll be something. We'll be taking, both of my sisters-in-law have large dogs that are vaccinated. So we'll be introducing them to, and a couple of my studio mates have dogs as well. So yeah, we will be socializing her, but it's just gonna have to be really careful. Oh yeah, my second tomorrow, your second COVID vaccine. Yes? Is this what we're talking about? You're not getting a Parvo vaccine. That's a dog thing. Oh, I've been on for an hour and 30 minutes. Okay. So I probably am going to have a fairly short stream today, if only just because I really, really want to go check that video. Hoping the side effects are minimal. Well, I hope for your sake that they are. Mine were not. Mine really sucked, especially on the second round. Now it looks like we're gonna have to get a third round. Woohoo! Okay, I'm having Pfizer. Brother had his second Moderna the other week and he didn't do good. Oh, Lauren, because you got tested. So I've never had a COVID test, so I don't know what that's like. I just have been isolated for most of the past year and a half. Every so often I'll do something with family and then I'll isolate. And the other week I met up with some studio mates outdoors. And now with the dog, I'm gonna have to see some people. Socialization is a priority. Yeah. But the basics, they make me gag. I think I am now doubly indoctrinated. Indoctrinated? Explain? Beans look yummy. Thanks, Mom. Inoculated. Ah, okay. Haven't had a test though. Yeah, no, I haven't had a test either. I am doubly inoculated. Okay, I think I'm actually gonna finish this here because I really want to go see that video. But I will share the video with all of y'all. If you are on Discord, I'll share it with you on Discord. If you are a family member and you're not on Discord, then you can either join Discord or I'll share it on the family chat. Oh, hi, Joy. I'm finishing up a video real early because I got a video sent to me by my dog breeder. So I really need to go watch that now. And I'm not going to be able to focus on my painting until I watch it. Doggy! Yeah. Yep. So I'm going to move this over to other chats. Bye. Bye.